Hello everyone, this is part 11 of What If Naruto Was a Genius with Kyuubi Powers, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist. To see more, comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Kakashi and Obito were walking down a street, receiving all of the glances that came toward them with glee. The thoughts behind the glances were easy enough to guess. Is that? No, it couldn't be Obito. Who is that and why don't I know him? And in the largest quantity, there was, oh no, not two of them. So, Obito, Kakashi began, would you rather have your toes cut off, or being hung from your thumbs? Oh, that's a hard one. I probably would want my toes cut off. Okay, now how about this? Would you rather be forced to eat fried worms for the rest of your life, or have your knee cheese equals grated to the bone? Would I have a choice of condiments for the worm? No. Darn. Well, having your knee cheese grated could apart a tendon, and since that's the one thing in the body that would not grow back, I guess I'll take the worms. Okay, so how about this? Would you rather have to watch Orochimaru belly dance, or a ramen shop burn to the ground? Just me now. So I'm guessing that you still like ramen then. Do you still like that Ikarika carp? It's not crap, it's very enlightening literature. Says you. And the thousands of other readers. Who all happen to be old perverts, and trust me when I say I know, I've met them. Whatever. Kakashi said angrily. Obito smirked in victory, as he continued to walk down the street. After some silence between them, Kakashi sighed, it's good to have you back, even if it did take 3 months of therapy to get over your death, which apparently never happened. Not my fault you didn't know how to check a pulse right. That was Rin's job. Oh, right, and she was in on it. How come you told her and not me? Because we need a docented medic nin to witness to my death, and proclaim me S, so that Konoha records would say I was S. Geez, talk about feeling left out, you, Rin, Sensei, all of you knew, except me. Don't feel too bad, it was an SS rank secret on a need-to-know basis. Kakashi sighed, well, we should probably head to the Hokage Tower for the big announcement. What? And be on time. Oh. My mistake, we should wait at least another hour, right? At least. Kakashi smiled, it is good to have you back. Shush. I am getting lost on the road of life, and that takes a lot of concentration. Meanwhile at Hokage Tower, Tsunade was standing on a small balcony, Sandaime stood to her left, and a weasel-masked Anbu stood at her right. When she was confident that everyone had arrived, she began. Lass and gentlemen of Konoha, I have very important news for you. 8 years ago, the details of Uchiha M were made known to the public. It was also released that Itachi Uchiha had been the criminal responsible for it. Boos echoed in the crowd. However, I have come to tell you that instead of being a criminal, Itachi is heralded as a hero. The confusion in the crowd was audible because of the thousands of ha that flew through the air. Itachi has been on an 8-year mission where he had to infiltrate the Akatsuki, a S-rank organization who are bent on destroying the world. In order to properly infiltrate the Akatsuki, he had to fulfill an initiation. The first suggestions were too radical for Itachi to perform. Finally the idea of killing his family came up, and the leader agreed to this and did not want anything less. So, Itachi then bargained for the life of his immediate family, and, able to achieve that, regretfully began the kings. Unfortunately, the leader followed Itachi and killed the remains of his family, excluding Sasuke. So, he still killed his family, why should he be a hero? A voice from the crowd yelled, this was met by cries of approval. Tsunade raised her hand for silence. Actually, I thank you for bringing that up. Not long after the Sandaime found evidence that the Uchiha were planning a coup. However, this evidence was inconclusive and would have only hindered Itachi in his mission. Down in the crowd, a young woman was listening to this new information as if her life depended on it. However, new evidence proves that the Uchiha were planning an attack on Konoha, which was scheduled 2 nights after Itachi had passed his initiation. In short, if Itachi had not killed the Uchiha clan, most of you would not be alive today. There was silence, the information was beginning to sink in. Now, I realize that most of you won't accept him because you are all too stubborn to get a new idea into head, as evidenced by Naruto, but, Itachi, unlike Naruto, has a couple of people to back him up. As soon as she said the words, Naruto sped into visibility, and Sasuke shunshin next to the weasel-masked Anbu. If any of you hurt Itachi, we will kill you. And they have my full permission to do so. Tsunade said. But for those of you who have wised up, I present to you, your hero, Itachi Uchiha. The Anbu took off his mask to reveal a face that Konoha has not seen in 8 years. Itachi smiled and lifted his hand, slightly disappointed that many of them did not cheer. A few did, mostly shinobi who understood what it meant to not try to complete his mission, but many of the older civilians were now including Itachi's death along with the plots for Naruto's death. Of course they'd never succeed, but they could still plot. Itachi kept WQing and smiling and then whispered to the Hokage, "You never mentioned a coup." Suin whispered back, "Couldn't have you compromise anything." There was a knock at the door. "Can someone get that?" Sasuke yelled into his house. "Not me." Obito yelled. Yeah. Itachi cried back, walking up to the door. He opened it and was met by a pair of ruby red lips. Itachi was smothered by Ayami's kiss as she threw her arms around him. Itachi was forced a couple of steps back as she leaned into her kiss. She broke off for a brief second, but only to get her point across. "I love you, but if you ever do something like that again, I'm going to castrate you." Before Itachi could say anything, she kissed him again. Tsunade called Naruto to her office and he arrived with his hood up, and his tail hidden. "I've heard that you and Hinata are going to tie the knot." "Yup, this July. Congratulations. Thank you. Now, I have an SS rank assassination mission for you, and your unique abilities." Unique. Fox ears provide acute hearing, and the tail gives you enhanced balance, and the cloak of invisibility makes you practically undetectable. Alright, who's the target? Orochimaru. Thus the SS rank, part of the mission. Precisely. Alright, I just have one request. What? Kyuubi comes with me. Why should he? Naruto frowned, he and the snake have some unfinished business. Naruto said darkly, besides, it's not like he'll compromise the mission. Naruto said, his smile returning. Alright, take him along, but make sure that you bury that snake for good this time. That won't be a problem. Kyuubi said, as he appeared in a puff of smoke, and then faded back into Naruto. Blood. His blood. Orochimaru looked up against the black sky, 2 figures, one red, one white. "We're coming for you, snake. And this time, I won't miss." Blood sped from their hands, his blood. For the first time in years, he felt a gnawing fear bite at his insides. "You want death? Well, it's coming." A pain flashed on his forehead, and he knew, he didn't know how, but he knew, into his forehead was carved 2 ends. And were coming fast. Orochimaru sat up, sweat covering his body. He looked around his room, found it empty. He checked his forehead, no blood, no pain, no ends. He sighed, just a dream. Or so he hoped. Koi, a sound sentry, was bored out of his ever-loving mind. There was nothing to do, except stare out into the inky black darkness, which, in all honesty, was his job. He propped his elbow against the top of Otogaku's wall, and sighed. Another man on the walkway came up to him. "You do have to admit it's boring, but it is the safest job in the village." "Don't use the word safe, it reminds me how boring this is." There was silence for a moment, when Koi asked, "So why'd you come over?" No answer. Koi turned to his fellow sentry, and saw that he was now headless. The headless body stood there, and raised an arm at him. Then, a soft, wispy voice said to him, "We're coming, to finish what we started." Koi began to back up. "Stay back, whatever you are, stay back." He was so scared that he forgot the wall came only waist high from the walkway. As he was backing up, his foot came into contact with the wall, but his body's momentum was too strong. He fell off the wall and landed with a sickening crack. The headless body suddenly dropped, and it stayed like that, as if someone who had been propping it up, and dumped it. They were coming. Orochimaru tried to go back to sleep, but the dreams he had of Naruto and Kyuubi coming after him were too much. So he simply lay there, on his bed, hoping that when he did finally drift to sleep it would be a dreamless one. A thud sounded at the door. Orochimaru sat up. What was that? He panicked slightly. He forced the panic down and stood up, and walked to his room door. At the floor was his guard, staring up at him with fogged over eyes, and two ends carved into his forehead. Orochimaru slammed the door shut. A thought went through his mind, it was such a strong thought it was like he could almost hear it. He's going to kill you. Orochimaru forced the thought down. No, I'm a Sannin, he said aloud to comfort himself, he's not going to kill me. He did once. I underestimated him, it won't happen again. Orochimaru quickly walked over to his closet, and pulled out some anbu braces and greaves. He then pulled out some needles, and a small beaker. I'd love to see him survive this, he said, covering the needles with the poison. He then summoned Kusanagi. He slowly made his way to the door, his sword at the ready. He opened it, and quickly stepped over his guard's body. He snuck down the hallway, seeing more S-boss with the double N marked onto their foreheads. Do you really think some poison needles are going to kill them? After all, you have no idea where he is. He could be right behind us. Orochimaru turned suddenly. Nothing but empty darkness met his eyes. He turned back forward and stepped over more boss of his subordinates. The hallway he was in suddenly came to an end, and in front of him, another hallway ran perpendicular to it, creating two corners from where his hunter could ambush him. He pressed himself against the corner, and carefully checked both ways of the corridor. Inky black darkness kept him from seeing anything. He took a tentative step to the left, and decided it was the best way to go. He carefully made his way into the blackness. He's going to kill you. It was that thought, that strong thought that seemed to never go away. Orochimaru shook his head. Stop thinking like that, you're a Sannin. One of the greatest. Orochimaru thought, his confidence returning momentarily. His grip on Kusanagi tightened, and he took a bold step into the darkness. He's going to kill you, he's not going to let you go this time. Silence, he told himself. He's going to kill you. Shut up. He's going to sneak up behind you and sa kunai through your heart. No, he's not. All your work to become the greatest being in the universe will be nothing because he's going to kill you. Shut up. Ha. Your mind snake. Orochimaru almost wet himself at that voice that echoed through the inky blackness of the halls. There was only one creature who could laugh that menacingly. Remember what happened to you last time. Orochimaru shuddered at the memory. This time you won't be so lucky. Orochimaru gulped and continued down the hallway. Yes, come closer, Snake, I have been waiting. Orochimaru stopped. Fear was coursing through him like blood through his veins. So I have to come to you, huh? Alright, Snake, here I come. He's going to kill you, Orochimaru, and I am too. Orochimaru had enough time to realize that those thoughts had not been his thoughts before a kunai came through his tea. I hope you accept my apology for taking your needles, but we can't have anyone get hurt, can we? The voice in his head said before he realized that it had never been in his head, it had been beside him, moving around him, making it sound like it had been everywhere. That voice had been taunting him, discouraging him, wearing him down, and scaring him. That voice had been an invisible Naruto. He had just enough time to think all of these thoughts before Kyuubi was in front of him. We're going to kill you, this time so you won't come back. Kyuubi launched a Kyuubican fist at his heart, destroying it. So ended Orochimaru the Snake Sannin, the one who claimed to be immortal. Naruto and Kyuubi quickly put the boss back where they had found them, and lit them all on fire, leaving no evidence to how they were killed. By the time someone found out and began calling for help, the boss were already heaps of ash. Not far from Otogakure, the two men sat, one had a white coat on, blonde hair, and blue eyes, and the other had red hair, a red vest, and red eyes. They were watching Otogakure go up in smoke out of. I'm surprised at you, the blonde said, I thought for sure you were going to cause him some serious pain. He felt my pain 4 years ago, now I just wanted to kill him. Well, then let's head home. The next day, the sun shone brightly in the Hyuga compound. However, the moods of the elders were as sour as ever. Especially since news of Naruto's proposal had just reached them. Neji had never seen the elders in this kind of uproar before. Sure, the time when Naruto had removed his seal had been bad, but this was on a whole new level for them. Something told him something bad was going to happen. Naruto was in his house, about to dive into a bowl of warm, homemade ramen, when a knock sounded at the door. Darn it, Why can't I just eat in peace? He got up and walked to the door. When he opened it, he was surprised to see a Hyuga boy, about 12. The elders want to see you and Hinata, he said. About what? Naruto asked. About your proposal, I think it was. Alright, I'll go over, but tell them not to be surprised if the branch members break out into revolution. The boy smiled and left. I'll tell them. Naruto closed the door, and yelled into the house, Hinata. Get ready to go. Where are we going? To see my future in-law. Hiashi stood in the Hyuga council chamber, angry as a hornet. These elders had their minds fixated on bringing the Namikas down, and he was fed up with it. A knock sounded, a boy came in, they're here. Send them in. A Hyuga elder said, a grim expression on his face. The boy nodded, then headed out, and after a second, the two fiancés entered. Namika's-san, an elder said, almost concealing his hatred for the boy. Yes, the one and only has arrived, Naruto said, bowing, however, that will soon change. Naruto said, grabbing his soon-to-be wife, and kissing her tenderly. The king intent given off by the collective council would have made any Junin weak in the knees. Naruto shrugged it off. So why is my presence requested here? Hiashi explained. They want your proposal to Hinata nullified. Did you show the agreement between you and Dad? Naruto asked. Yes, but they say it is null and void because then you weren't a demon, now you are. Wow, that's shallow. The council fumed. So, I guess that means the proposal is up for debate. Naruto asked. Yes, it is, Namika's-san. Another elder said, spitting the name Namika's out as if it were a curse. Naruto smiled, then we should call the Hokage. No, one of the clan elders objected, this is a clan matter. No, it's not, Naruto said, unless you've forgotten, the Namika's clan, despite being only one member large, is a clan, and because of its clan status, this is a matter between clans, and therefore, it is a village matter, the Hokage should be present. The elders remained silent. I don't care which you choose, although I'm partial to the Sandaime, since he was around for the incident. The elders quickly conversed among themselves. Very well, we shall call the Hokage here. No you won't, Naruto said, because this is a village matter, and all village matters are to be among the clan heads and the Hokage, so unless one of you becomes the clan head, then you should be doing your best to convince Hiashi that I'm not fit to marry his daughter. The elders got real quiet. Hiashi glanced up at him, smiling mischievously, how do you know so much about Konoha law? Kyuubi wanted to be a lawyer at one time, but he had too much heart. So he settled for king enemies. Hiashi smiled. So, unless you have anything else to say to me, I say this meeting is adjourned. And as for you too. Hiashi said, turning to the couple, I hope you have a wonderful married life ahead of you. Sounds good to me, Hiashi-sama. Please, call me Dad. The dark man sat in his black room. He needed to K something. He looked around his room, and found a small rat. He grinned. Kaiten, Eden. The dark man spit fire from his mouth and roasted the rat, leaving nothing but a flaming pile of bones. Soon enough, Konoha would look the same. Naruto almost glided down the streets of Konoha, as happy as he could possibly be. He had found the secret to his ears and tail. They only came when he was in a five-tailed mode. At 6, there was too much power for them to take form, and at 4 there was too little, 5 was the exact amount, and using any of Kyuubi's chakra to coat his body would disintegrate them. He was suddenly very glad he had a training session with Kyuubi. Flashback. So, according to your theory, using only one tail of your chakra, I should be able to harness the Raisin Shuriken with minimal damage. Only if you concentrate most of it into your hand and arm. Otherwise the damage would only be slightly relieved. Alright, let's test this out. Kyuubi nodded, then faded into Naruto. Slowly, Kyuubi's red chakra began to flow out of him. A chakra tail formed behind, next to his F-tail, as his teeth grew to fangs. He smiled and began to form the Rasengan. Then, slowly, the Rasengan began to disfigure. It grew 4 long, curved blades, much like a windmill shuriken would have. His smile got bigger and bigger as the Raisin Shuriken got more and more powerful. He then dispelled it. Mission success, Naruto said as the chakra fox cloak faded. Suddenly Naruto felt off balance. He tried to shift his tail to rebalance himself, but failed and fell forwards. He pushed himself up on his elbows and shifted to look behind him. No tail. Naruto blinked. He then went through some very familiar handsings. Freedom of a trusted servant jutsu. Kyuubi faded into view, and looked down on the prone body of Naruto. Well, I'll be. What about my ears? Kyuubi took a quick look, as human as they could possibly be. Naruto looked up at him for a second, before jumping into the air. Sweet. He quickly ran home to show Hinata, then the Hokage, then anyone who ever knew about his ears or tail. End flashback. He spent a little more time experimenting with his ears and tail and was able to unlock the secret. Now he was on his way to Ichiraku for some well-deserved ramen. When he came in, he found two other customers, Obito and Itachi. Obito was downing a fifth bowl of miso ramen, and Itachi was eating a sixth bowl of a ramen he hadn't seen before. Ayami was juggling ramen making and love-struck staring at Itachi. Oh. Hello Naruto, Ayami said, smiling. The two Uchiha looked back at him, noodles hanging from their mouths. Heif. Obito greeted, speaking around his noodles. Itachi only waved. I never knew you were the ramen type Itachi. Naruto said as he sat down. Itachi emptied his mouth, 3 words, pocky-flavored ramen. He said before diving back into his bowl. I'm going to guess that the new meal is your doing. Naruto said, looking at Ayami. Guilty as charged. She smiled. Well, I might as well try it out, 1 pocky, 6 miso to start with. Naruto said. Obito looked at him. Coming right up. Ayami said. To start with, Obito asked. Yeah. Obito's one eye watered. I found a fellow ramen lover, at long last. Itachi scowled. Sometimes I prefer Toby. He grumbled under his breath. So I've been meaning to ask you guys, how tough do you think pain is? Itachi looked over at him. Are you kidding? I've heard he has never been beaten as pain. Well, there's always a first time, isn't there? Why the pain question? Obito asked. Hokage-sama hasn't sent us on that mission yet, has she? No. But I feel the time is close. Naruto said, growing serious. Here's your order. Ayami said, handing him a bowl. Sweet. Naruto cried, smiling and diving into his bowl of ramen. Tsunade felt at ease, for once in a long time. Orochimaru was gone. Finally, everyone was okay, the economy was looking good. Sandaime was thinking about retiring as advising Hokage, which means he would be one less siphon of her money. Now all that needed to happen was for Jiraiya to quit writing those disgusting books of his and the world would be perfect. She picked up the newspaper and looked at the lottery numbers for the week. She pulled out her ticket and compared the numbers. What she saw made her blood freeze. Shizune. Put the whole village on red alert. Prepare all defenses. Evacuate the civilians to the safe house. Get every Chunin and Junin into the plaza. Why? What's happened? I won the lottery. Shizune looked at her for a moment, and then the realization hit her. Whenever Tsunade won, her loved ones lost. Yes, ma'am. She snapped her fingers and 3 Anbu appeared. Tsunade pointed to an Anbu with a bear mask. Bear, I want you to get all genin to move with the civilians, it's the job to keep them safe. Bear nodded and disappeared. Cat, she said, pointing to an Anbu with a feline mask. I want you to organize all of the wall's defenses. Cat nodded then disappeared. Lizard, she said, pointing to the last Anbu, he wore a reptilian mask. It's a dragon, he said. I don't care. I want you to scout out the area around Konoha. Then report back with your findings. Dargon nodded then disappeared. She quickly looked around, found her elusive intercom and pushed the button down with almost enough force to break it. Get me Team Fox, Jiraiya, Itachi, Obito, Sasuke and Kakashi. Now. Yes, Hokage-sama. Tsunade quickly looked around for her hat. This was as important as it got. She silently prayed that this was only a fluke. Naruto suddenly appeared in the Hokage's office with a yellow flash. A couple of weeks ago, he had hid a Harashin seal in the room. Hinata was with him, caught in the Harashin vortex. What's going on? Naruto asked. I think we're about to be attacked. Tuzan said. Dragon was jumping through the forest, looking for any clue that an attack might happen, while mentally wondering why he had to do this. Really, she wins and then she thinks the world's going to come down on our heads. Is her luck that bad? Really? He jumped onto a nearby tree branch to catch his breath. He was about to move again when an explosion shattered the tree he had been standing on. Dragon hit the ground with a thud, hitting his head against a rock. His world tipped crazily as dizziness from the hit washed over him. When the dizziness subsided, he found that he was surrounded by 8 figures. One was a woman had blue hair and an origami rose was tucked into it. 6 of them were men that had black piercings covering their boss, and had eyes that were made of 6 concentric, gray rings. The 8th figure was a man with jet black hair and onyx eyes. Dragon tried to push himself up when his arm exploded in pain. A quick glance at it revealed that it was broken. The man with the black hair and black eyes reached down and picked up Dragon by the end. His eyes suddenly transformed into those of the Sharingan. A sneer appeared on the Uchiha's face. Konoha will fall to me. The gathered Junins and Chunins were standing in the plaza outside the Hokage Tower, worried as a mother whose teenage daughter hasn't come back for 2 hours after curfew. Tsunade came out, onto her balcony, accompanied by the 3 loyal Uchiha, Team Fox, Kakashi Jiraiya, and Sandaime Hokage. Shinobi and Kunoichi of Konoha, I have serious news. I won the lottery. Some of the Shinobi, who didn't know about Tsunade's brother and boyfriend thought she went to all this trouble to tell them that her luck was changing. Those who knew better instantly went into high alert. Suddenly, a vulture-masked Anbu Kunoichi appeared next to Tsunade. Hokage-sama, I was following Dragon on his scouting trip when he was attacked by 7 Shinobi and a Kunoichi. What did they look like? Itachi asked the Anbu. The Kunoichi had blue hair and wore a black cloak with red clouds on it. Conan. Obito whispered. 6 of the men looked somewhat alike, in that they had black piercings and gray eyes. Pain. Kyuubi growled. And the last one was different, he had black hair, and black eyes. He also had what I think is the Sharingan. Madara. Itachi hissed the name like it was a curse. Tsunade moved between Itachi and the ANBU. I want you to lock down all of the gates. Yes, ma'am. Shinobi and Kunoichi of Konoha, Tsunade said, turning to the Orzents, it has been confirmed, we are about to be attacked by 3 SS rank missing nin. One of them is Madara Uchiha and he wields the eternal Mangekyo, be extremely cautious when facing him. The second one is named Pain, he is the wielder the Rinnegan, and he has found 6 body hosts and is extremely dangerous. Finally, there is Conan, she has a wide variety of paper jutsu and is nicknamed the Angel of the Atatsuki. Jiraiya spoke up. I can tell you already, that as my students, Pain and Conan were extremely sly, but that was years ago, now, they are no doubt strong enough to K me. That got the ninjas worried. A figure in a black cloak slipped into the plaza. Tsunade continued, many, if not most of you will today, but I ask you to stand with us, as the 3 most powerful ninja in the world come to attack us. Immediately the ninjas began muttering to themselves, until a loud din hovered over the crowd. The figure in the black cloak smiled, they were afraid, he could smell it. That's not exactly how you encourage people, Bar-chan. Naruto said. Tsunade looked at him, if you think you can do better, then please, go ahead. Naruto smiled. I think I will. He stepped up to the edge of the balcony, and listened to the low roar of the crowd. He filled his lungs with air and yelled, K-O-O-O-O-N-N-N-O-O-O-H-H-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A. The word echoed across the plaza, silencing the crowd. When the echo finally SD down, Naruto began. That was my battle cry. I will not lie to you, we, who live on the front line of this village, are about to face a terror that makes Kyuubi's attack seem tame. The crowd remained silent, but if Yondaime was willing to give his life, if Sandaime was willing to give his life, if the Nadaime and Shodai were willing to lay down their lives for this collection of broken buildings, then why should we toss it away and dishonor their memories? The crowd kept silent, engrossed by Naruto's words. If they were here now, I know they would be down there with you, encouraging you, pleading with you, begging you to help them defend this village with your breath. If my father were here, he would have wasted no time, and would have gathered his Harashin kunai long before this meeting had even been called to order. He would be ready to even before the first word of an attack had reached his ears. Next to me stands Obito and Itachi Uchiha. These men have laid everything on the line, their hopes, their futures, their loves, they put everything down for this village. Also next to me stands Tayuya, she found a new life in Konoha, and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, that she is willing to repay this village by laying it down. When I look at people like these, I see the shadows of the past Hokages in them, I see the Shodai, the Nadaime, even Yondaime, I see them lurking in their eyes, wanting nothing more than to rise up in defense of this village. No one even blinked, but they were all staring at Naruto. This day, I am asking you to thank those who have already given their all for this village. I'm asking you to honor their memories. I'm asking you to keep the dream of Konoha, alive. I am asking for you to help them. He pointed at the Hokage monument, whose 5 stone faces seemed to beg for help. I am asking you to be there for them. And I promise you, I will not sit back and watch like some powerful hypocrite. I promise that before this day is over, my battle cry will ring through the forest another 10 times. I promise you, that if anyone will lay their life down, I will. I swear to you, on my dream of becoming Rokudaime Hokage, that I will protect this village with my life. And I hope and pray that you will do the same. Tsunade took a quick look in the audience. Some of the ninjas had a few tears in their eyes, and others were looking at the Hokage monument, as if those stone faces were speaking to them. And do not worry about your lives, for even if you est today, it will not be in vain. Even though we face some of the most powerful ninjas in our time, take heart, for on your side you have some who are far more powerful. You have Jiraiya, Tsunade, Itachi, Sasuke, Obito, Kakashi, Hinata, Tayuya, and even Kyuubi himself, who have all sworn to protect this village with their lives. But my question to you is if you will let them stand alone. Will you let Konoha fall to dust and ashes? Will you let Madara destroy what the Hokages have worked so hard to build? Will you let all the good we have done be for nothing? Will you? Naruto asked the crowd. No. Many of them shouted. I asked if you will let it fall. No. More this time. I can't hear you. Noo. The entire Korude was shouting. Then let me hear your battle cry. Koonnoohaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaa Let Madara know who he's messing with. Konoha, 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 Konoha. The chant began to rise into the air. Fist of 1,000 shinobi were thrown into the air, ready to lay their lives down. Naruto turned to Tsunade, her mouth hung slightly opened. That's how you inspire a crowd. The man in the black cloak frowned. Their fear had been decimated by the blonde boy. This was not good. He left the plaza, and before anyone noticed that he had been there, he was gone. For years, Jiraiya had told Tsunade that his telescope was good for something other than peeping at women when he was out of their arms and fists reach. Now he was proving it. There are at least 70 rain nins closing in on the gate. He yelled from the top of the Hokage tower to Tsunade. Good, keep watching. Will do. Tsunade, however, made her preparations. She dipped her fingers in a purple paint that matched the color of the jewel on her forehead, and painted to long lines that went horizontally across her cheeks. She then drew the summoning circle and performed the Kuchio's no Jutsu. When the dust cleared, there were 2 slugs on her shoulders. Ah, Tsunade, it has been a long time. The one on her right shoulder said. Yes, but it is time nonetheless, Hidoro, slime. Tsunade said. Have all the preparations been made? The one on her left shoulder asked. Yes, Yushu, slow, they have. Very well, you may begin. Tsunade nodded. Sennen Mado. She said. Slowly her back began to change into a blue color, while her front grew a pale white. Let's go, she said to her sluggish companions. Meanwhile, Team Fox made their own preparations. Kyuubi was going through the hidden Namikaze armory, picking out several spears, naginators, look it up if you have to, katanas, tonfas, chain whips, kunai, shuriken, windmill shuriken, makibishi, senbons, and exploding notes, all of which he sealed into a large scroll which he secured to his lower back. Tayuya was having the Tenshi brothers sharpen their weapons, and she herself was preparing for a fight, arming herself with kunai, shuriken, and a pair of wrist blades that could retract along her arms. Hinata was going over her fox tube with a critical eye, making sure it was in perfect condition, just in case disuse kept it from working right. She was also armed with a nunchaku that Tenten had given her. Naruto was filling his coat with Hirashin kunai, while a shadow clone sharpened the fox blade. Madara looked over Konoha, wishing that it was already burning to the ground. His scout had reported that the ninjas were ready and waiting, and not the least bit worried. He smiled. Good, it gives them hope, and I will enjoy crushing that hope. Pain approached. Madara-sama, the ninjas are in position. Good. Tell him to wait for my signal. Pain nodded and turned away. Something's bothering you. What? Madara asked. I just have a bad feeling about this, nothing more. Pain responded. Be sure it stays that way. Tsunade stood on top of Konoha's wall, accompanied by Jiraiya, in his Senin mode. His nose had grown and had large warts on it, he had extra marks on his cheeks, and 2 toads sat on his shoulders. So it all comes down to this. The toad on his right said. I'm afraid it does, Pa. Jiraiya said. They stood in silence for a while, until Pa spoke up. Ma, he said to the toad on Jiraiya's left, if anything happens, I just want you to know that I love you with all my heart. I love you too, Pa. Ma said, smiling. The whole thing made Jiraiya feel lonely. He sighed. What's the matter, Jiraiya? Tsunade asked. Oh, it's only that in my books, my characters always live happily ever after, growing old and together, as happy as they were the day they met. He sighed again, but it seems that whoever is in charge of writing my story won't give me that chance. I'm sure you'll find someone, Jiraiya. Tsunade said, trying to comfort him. Jiraiya smirked. Who are you kidding? I'm 54 years old for crying out loud. Who in their right mind would want some old geezer as a husband? She blinked as she thought about it. Here he was, an old man, accepting age with only the regret of never being married. And if she couldn't even bring herself to look at her true self, then what kind of woman would want to be married to a man that old? The more she thought about it, the more she realized that no woman in her right mind would be married to a man that old, except maybe a woman that old. She opened her mouth, about to say something when Jiraiya said something that poured guilt into her heart. But of course, any woman I can even hope to be happy with, only sees me as a stupid pervert who writes the most disgusting books on the planet. Then they push me away before I can even say a word. It's not like I'd put them in my book or anything, but no, they won't even give me a chance. That silenced Tsunade very fast. Guilt poured over her conscience as Jiraiya's words played over and over again in her mind. Then they push me away before I can even say a word, they won't even give me a chance. After a few seconds of silence, Jiraiya spoke up again, sorry, I just have to vent every now and then. It's okay, Tsunade said, not even daring to look him in the eye. Jiraiya looked up to the sky, and seeing the dark and ominous clouds, spoke. They'll be here shortly, he's just preparing the rain. Kyuubi stood, looking out across the trees, he was at the west gate, staring into space, waiting for the time to come. Kyuubi felt a familiar presence, he turned, and he saw Naruto approaching. Hey Q. Naruto. Hey, Kyuubi, I want to ask you something. What? If anything happens to me, will you take care of Hinata? Naruto, have you forgotten that if you is too? Naruto smiled, no, I haven't forgotten that is how it used to be. Kyuubi looked at him, used to be. I made a small modification to my seal. How small? Kyuubi, there's no need to beat around the bush, you're free, honestly free. But what about you? I mean, your chakra coils are adapted to coexist with mine. You can still come and enter my mindscape, Q, Naruto said, interrupting him, I'm just giving you a little more freedom. Kyuubi looked at him, stunned. Oh, and you won't be needing that anymore. Naruto said, holding the chakra shackle that bound him to the biju. The shackle shattered, and Naruto smiled, now just take care of Hinata if okay? He asked. Kyuubi was too stunned for words, so he just nodded. Good. I'll hopefully see you afterwards. Naruto said, returning to his post. Kyuubi just stood there, in shocked silence. He looked at his wrist, unbelieving. Did he really just do that? He smiled, Minato, your son is just like you, big heart and everything. He kept smiling, until the rain began to fall. He turned to the forest, a scowl on his face where the smile used to be, now it was time for business. That will be all for this video, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos, goodbye.